Right now, you're seeing Andrew Cuomo showing up at the house, a rabbi's house in Muncie, New York, where stabbings took place last night. This is coming in the midst of a series of anti-Semitic attacks and threats in the New York metro area, New York and New Jersey, over the course of the last couple of weeks, something that's clearly set folks there on edge. We are going to keep you posted on the story. Obviously, it's fast developing. Happened last night and still going. Andrew Cuomo there at the moment. So we will let you know if he speaks, and we'll obviously keep you posted as this show continues to move through. Hang on, we're going to toss back to the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, speaking. Take a listen.
I just visited with Rabbi Rottenberg and his wife to bring the best wishes and condolences from the people of the state of New York. The rabbi's son was one of the victims of the attack, and he says that he is recovering, and that's good news. One of the victims who was attacked is still in very serious condition, and the rabbi had recently gotten an update, but that person is still in very serious and critical condition with wounds to the head. The rabbi spoke about what happened last night, which is much of what has been reported in the press. It's important for me to express to the rabbi and to all the people of the state of New York that this is intolerance meets ignorance meets illegality. This is an intolerant time in this country. We see anger, we see hatred exploded. It is an American cancer in the body politic. It literally turns one cell in the body against others. And we have seen it here in the state of New York. This is about the 13th incident of anti-Semitism in just the past few weeks. Comes during a period of high holidays for the Jewish people. It is intolerant, it is ignorant, but it is also illegal. And at the end of the day, it's not just about words, it's about action. And we have seen enough in New York. This is violence spurred by hate. It is mass violence, and I consider this an act of domestic terrorism. Let's call it what it is. These people are domestic terrorists, and the law should reflect that, and they should be punished as if it was an act of terrorism. And we're going to take the lead here in the state of New York and do just that. And I'm going to propose that in the beginning of January when I lay out my State of the State address. But in the meantime, we stand in solidarity with all members of the Jewish community. It is a very important part of this state, very important part of this country, certainly. And we're going to enforce the laws and make sure that acts like this do not happen. And if they happen, they are punished to the full extent of the law. Okay?
Community leaders have openly talked about needing greater security measures. What is the government doing to stem the explosion of hatred toward faith-based communities in the state and across the nation?
Yeah, well, look, it is a nationwide problem, and I refer to it as an American cancer, and I believe that. You see it against members of the Jewish community. You see it against members of the LGBTQ community. What's happening is this nation's diversity, which is our greatest strength, is turning into a weakness. Once you demonize differences, you attack the very fabric and culture of this country, because we are all different. Once you start saying, well, if you are different, then I am uncomfortable with your differences, then you're saying we're all uncomfortable with one another. And that is what is happening nationwide. Lack of tolerance, ignorance, and people breaking the law based on different religions, different races, different creeds. We have increased security in this state. I think it's time to step up the law enforcement. We have hate crimes. We have very aggressive hate crimes that we prosecute. But I think it's gone beyond that. I think this is an act of terrorism. I think these are domestic terrorists. They are trying to inflict fear They're motivated by hate. They are doing mass attacks. These are terrorists in our country perpetrating terrorism on other Americans, and that's how we should treat it. And that's how I want the laws in this state to treat it. I'm on my way to meet with leaders of the community, and I'll have more to say after that. Thank you for being with us.
So just to recap, that was Governor Andrew Cuomo visiting the house of a rabbi where 5 were wounded in a stabbing attack last night. He said there was 1 victim in very serious condition. He also said, let's call it what it is. These people are domestic terrorists. Look, particularly with the Orthodox Jewish community, if you don't think there's a problem here, you haven't been paying attention. I want to pull up just a look at the recent attacks that they've seen over the course of the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. Governor Cuomo mentioned them, I think, saying at one point there were 13 instances of anti-Semitism-related attacks or taunting over the course of the last couple of months. This is a serious issue. Karin, it's occasionally touched on Capitol Hill, it occasionally bursts up, but like, this is a thing.
Yeah, I mean, the list that you just showed was from the last week. The ADL tracks these numbers, generally speaking, and there's been a rise in anti-Semitic attacks in the last few years, especially. I think it started to change course in about 2014, but since 2017, there's been a sharp rise in the number of incidents that you see about this, and it's a real issue, and that leads to the question of why. And I thought it was interesting that the governor was talking about domestic terrorism, because that has been a national debate we've been having, not just about attacks against Jewish communities, but attacks against Muslims, attacks against immigrant communities too. And the government for a long time was more focused under this administration on looking outward for foreign terrorism, not so much at domestic terrorism. There's been a renewed debate about should we be looking internally, given the type of attacks that happen, and can we do something about this, both in terms of the laws and in terms of just more tolerant society. We're in a divided country right now, but that doesn't have to turn into actual, physical attacks against people who look different, or worship a different God.
And the governor's saying that he's going to have some proposals that he's going to talk about in his State of the State address coming up related to this issue. Look, again, I don't know what the answers are, certainly, but these are Americans. They are clearly being targeted for their faith, particularly Orthodox Jews, and that would seem to be a pretty significant problem that needs to be addressed. We're going to keep a very close eye on this, see if anything else comes to fruition. Again, just real quick, 1 victim in very serious condition in the knife attack in Muncie, New York last night, and the governor now calling it a domestic terror attack. We'll be back with more after this.